Tibet's culture is on the verge of extinction. It's people living in a hell on earth under Chinese occupation, the Dalai Lama has declared. It's 50 years since the failed Tibetan uprising was crushed by Beijing, forcing the Dalai Lama to flee his homeland. Ahead of the anniversary, Channel 4 News has obtained exclusive pictures secretly filmed in the capital Lhasa, showing the strength of Chinese security forces. It's the same in other Tibetan-dominated provinces, Qinghai, Sichuan and Gansu. Our international editor Lindsay Hilson reports.
The Chinese military deployed across the Tibetan parts of the country, filmed discreetly because the government doesn't want anyone to see riots, demonstrations or the measures they use to keep order. In Kanding, Sichuan province, they patrol the streets night and day, fearing a repeat of last year's uprising. The local Communist Party official welcomes the soldiers. He says their work at this sensitive time is crucial. Kanding is one of dozens of towns where ethnic Tibetans are in the majority. Last month, a monk set fire to himself in protest at Kirti Monastery. Activists report that others have been arrested in recent days.
There's an overwhelming military presence, that troops have been deployed even into the most remote villages with just handfuls of hundreds of people, and that there's just a climate of fear and intimidation.
In Lhasa, the capital of Tibet itself, they've been preparing for trouble. These pictures were shot by a visitor 10 days ago, before all foreigners were forced to leave. The training exercise is taking place behind the Potala Palace, the Dalai Lama's traditional home, which he fled 50 years ago today. Armed men in uniform also overlook the Jokang temple and patrol the square in front. Human rights groups say more than 1,000 Tibetans remain in prison after last year's unrest. Today, Tibetan exiles in India were addressed by the Dalai Lama.
These 50 years have brought untold suffering and destruction to the land and people of Tibet. Even today, Tibetans in Tibet live in constant fear, and the Chinese authorities remain constantly suspicious of them. Today, the religion, culture, language and identity, which successive generations of Tibetans have considered more precious than their lives, are nearing extinction.
The Dalai Lama was just 15 when China invaded Tibet in 1950. The People's Liberation Army kept power by force of arms. After 9 years, the Dalai Lama fled over the Himalayas to India following a failed Tibetan uprising. Young Chinese attending an exhibition in Beijing this week learn a different history, in which the People's Liberation Army freed Tibet from poverty and serfdom.
Reforms in Tibet are an important milestone in the world's anti-serf movement. It was a great step forward for the cause of international human rights.
Some of the younger exiled Tibetans see the Dalai Lama's policy of peaceful resistance as a failure. After 50 years, negotiations with China have gone nowhere, and the chances that the Dalai Lama will return to his homeland are remote.
Lindsay Hilson reporting. Up to 30